Hi guys, it's Eunice here. We are back in the Future Thoughts series, and this round we are going to focus on the second wave of digisexuality. I have a background in media innovation, and I will pass the word right now to Gabriela, who's going to introduce herself right now.
Yes, hi, my name is Gabriela Obispa, and I have a background in technology, law, and ethics, and a passion for this aspect of technology. Yes.
So, Gabriela, what can we expect when it comes to second wave of digisexuality?
That's a good one. I think understanding what it means and also the possible impact it has on society and humans. That's what you can expect. And I will start with a definition. Is that okay?
Yeah, sure.
So before we start digging into this very interesting topic, me and Denise they are going to talk about, I will give you definition. So the second wave, desexuality, is really about immersive technologies, and really it's to create opportunities for new forms of sexual experiences, not depending on human partners. So there's no human partner involved. And you think about, for example, robots, AI, virtual reality, or augmented reality. And I think Anise also has some, because of her paper, she can maybe explain a bit of the virtual reality part. Or
Yes, of course. Basically, it's basically focusing on when you have your goggles on and you are completely immersed into the technology realm. So you are completely in a different realm. You have to see it as it can be 3D, 360s, depending on the quality and also the company that you want to subscribe or purchase the content for. So you have the 360 version, which is a lot of cameras all over the room, and then you can also see and rotate and see what's happening out there. Or you can have also the other one, which is mostly a little bit more artificial, you can say, that is mostly based on avatars and also creating it yourself, creating your environment, same as you are going to shop online and then you choose your shoes.
but also you also have the part of robots, you have sex robots you can think of.
Yes,
And
indeed.
AI, you can think about chatbots, for example, but they all use AI. But I mean, for for the audience, you also have sex chatbots also online as replica, for example. It's not official sex chatbot, but you can train them to be a sex chatbot. And sex robots, they're being made all over the world, I guess, right? I think you told
Yes.
me last time, Anis, that they're being made for different kind of fetishes or sexual
Customized to your
preference.
needs
Yeah.
and wants.
Yes, yes. So now we have discussed the definition. I think it's important to also go about why is this being
Oh, we forgot
introduced.
one. We forgot augmented
Oh,
reality, which is also part of
oh
the
yes.
immersive environment. Yes.
Ah, that's true. That's true. So then you have all the types of technologies that are being immersed technologies are being used for sexual pleasure also. So what are, I think, why is this happening? Do you have an idea, Ernest, maybe like why is this kind of technologies are being introduced? Is it something that's part of our new future that we're entering?
I think it's part of new future. I think companies are seeing new opportunities. I think, and I think people are leaning towards not being alone, and people are aiming to get what they want and what they need in a different way because they cannot get it physically. Um,
Mm.
comes to focusing on as well creating your own avatar or buying a sex bot for thousands of US dollars based on like your preference from A to Z and back. So people are pretty much, I think, focusing on how can I get still what I need and the wants and sexually instead of just waiting for someone to come along and just
Be
swipe me.
perfect.
Yes, just and in this case comes to connect with the, let's say, Tinder applications. Why should I wait for a person to swipe left if I can have a chatbot on my right in my
That's
house, turned on and off?
That's very interesting because now we started with the first wave, of course. That's really about a mediating technology and versus now really having someone, um, not
or
someone like having
something.
something, an
Yes,
artifact to really make this connection with. And I think that's a interesting part of this topic that we're going towards a future where this is going to be normal, right? Because it's already existing. People are really having actually a port to making a perfect person. And I think, yeah, you can call it an artifact that, yeah, that they think that, how do you say this? Let me think about this cautiously. Yeah, that they're making this perfect people are going to do this and I think those there are ethical aspects on it because making perfect human beings, for example, through robots, etc., and having this connection with them, these are very big ethical questions, like should
yes,
we, or dilemmas even, like should we want to have this kind of sex robots or sexual experiences and technologies for sexual pleasure or for intimacy or relationship, because I also heard someone get married to one of them, so it wasn't only for sexual pleasure, it was also
yes.
for love.
But then going back to, I think, your first or second sentence
Yes.
about normal, what is normal? And this actually was the question of my supervisor
Yes.
for my thesis. What is normal? And I will never ever forget this question because for
That's a,
everybody, normal is different.
that's a good one.
So first, I think as an individual or as a community, because in the real world we have established that normal is not does not include robots in relationships, because right now robots are being used more and more in companies. Yes, so
Yes.
it's becoming a norm.
Accepted. Yes.
Yes, adopted, accepted. But in the relationship wise, that is not normal. So I think we should define or redefine what normal is. And I did not conduct the research. So as soon as I find a research conducted about the word normal, then I think it's very interesting to discuss about whether it's normal or not, whether
Yes.
whether yes, it's normal, then it's accepted or not. But you know,
I think that's a good question because of course it's not fair to say something is not normal or normal because it's not my place to say that. I mean, like as society we have our norms and values, and but I think people having this kind of interest and really wanting to have this kind of connection with these artifacts or with robots, etc., I think they should be allowed in a certain way. But on the other hand, because for me it's like it's double, because for me I understand that using this kind of immersive technologies for relationships or love or for sexual pleasure, it's also about, it can also help a lot of people out. So
yeah,
you have
of
this part
course.
of the health issues, people who are having a like a chronic disease maybe, or having a disability, or even elderly that are really alone. This can really benefit them. So in the future, I really see doctors prescribing this kind of robots or and I can see that happen in the future. I
That's
see
a
your
that oh my gosh, that is such a danger zone, because there are discussions already about sex bots and basically people using these as therapies or therapeutic solutions, which
yes.
I don't really mind. Of course, I
Okay.
mean each and everybody with their solution and
Yes.
accepting the solution, but it went as far as if you are a pedophile even
Yes.
and you use a robot as the solution to the problem.
Uh,
Yes. So again, it's good, but the other aspect is that should we accept that even if it's a robot? Because of course we say robots do not have feelings. That it's an algorithm that we provide the robots with the information, and then whatever happens happens. But then on the other spectrum, instead of solving the problem of that specific human being who has a specific type of problem,
yes.
you are in a way giving that person still the opportunity to do what he did but with a robot,
I think I
you
get it.
know.
Yes.
So
I think that's a good point you're making, because in my opinion, for example, when I do technology and law and of course regulations, and something there's always like an exception is if it's not in line with public interest. So if, for example, a pedophile, for example, can be something that we have to be aware of when designing regulations for health, for example, for prescribing robots for health issues or for therapeutic means. But I think if it's the public interest is at stake, so if you're using this for to help pedophiles to maybe that's very the sensitive topic.
Yeah,
But if you're helping them to become to manage their problem or their issue they're having, it can benefit them maybe, but it also can reinforce something that already exists. So that's the thing that I find it very difficult to talk about that part, because I'm not a doctor. I don't know
exactly.
if it's true or not what I'm saying now, but I think it's important to really do research on this part and see if indeed is it going to make it even make the situation worse than it already is. And then you come also to it's a difficult one, but I
Yeah,
think if the public interest is at stake, you should be very aware of why you're using these robots for this means, because otherwise it can go very bad for society. But for other health issues, for example, for the disabled people or for people who are elderly and they don't have no one, I think that's a part also of the human rights, of like human dignity, to have the right to, feel alive and to feel loved. And these kind of robots can maybe, I don't say they should be, but they can maybe be a solution to the problem. But then we have to think about, is technology the problem for every, the solution for every
institution.
problem? That's where yeah. So, but I get it. It's a great point actually. You made me think very hard.
No, but these are the things like the tiniest little details that
Yes.
this new wave is coming with, that also it brings a lot of question marks into the human behavior and the ethical aspect of it.
Yes.
For instance, the marriage with a hologram, is that normal? Yes or no? For that person, it's like completely normal. I mean, that person is
Exactly.
in love with
Yeah.
the hologram.
Mm.
But for us here on this side of the island or this side of the world, for instance, that's just plain weird. So I remember I told my dad, for instance, that this man is having a relationship with a hologram. I had to explain what a hologram is, and and then um, even more further, yeah. By the way, they get married to these things, or whether it's a robot or hologram, for them, yeah, of course it's weird. It's not something that you hear every single day,
No.
but you can sense as well that the generation gap and or situations and again culture is not the same at all. So for instance, in Asian countries, it's normal to have a lot of devices, gadgets, robots walking around, working, whatever. But here on this side of, especially in this region, Caribbean region, it's not. So
Ah, okay. So you
yeah,
think it's very cultural sensitive part. So you for an island as Curacao, for example, I think that's of the for the region of the Caribbean. It's a whole different story, of course,
yeah,
because it's a whole different experience. So because what you said before, in Asia they're used to already customized to like, oh, okay, this is happening. So they're very more okay accepting, I guess, of this type of love relationship. But I think for smaller islands or smaller communities, it's still like, whoa,
yes.
this
But
can be a
then
lot.
again,
Yes.
yes, but again, it's also focusing the human behavior aspect and the human connection comes into play as well, instead of solely let's connect through a device, let's connect further than an application.
Ah, that's also a good one.
And of course, as well, if you do not have the means to purchase specific, let's say, a VR goggle or a hologram or a robot, then you will stay with what you know, which is the first wave, or just the I think I'm going to call it a flat wave of the whole spectrum, because then you do not know how it would feel like if you have one of these things available for you.
That's true. That's true. But also, what I also think, because I read something in an article about these privacy issues around these kind of robots, because there was this actress, I think Scarlett Johansson, and she was talking about someone made like her face as a humanoid sex robot, and her privacy was, of course, there was a privacy issue. And I think these kind of robots or virtual reality are making so much things possible. They're like, you can also think about making an avatar looking like your ex,
Yeah,
or
pretty much.
looking, yeah. And
Everything is possible.
yeah, so I think for the ethical part, of course, I'm really thinking about, okay, what does it mean for privacy, for human dignity, but also, for example, avatars being used to replicate someone, or so. What's your idea on that? Do you think it's like, from a business perspective, it is more like, okay, people want someone that's perfect, that looks like them, or looks like someone they like, or, but do you think using them to look like someone, or for example, you have a crush on your neighbor, and you're like, you know what, I'm going to just replicate this person, and then I'm going to have sex with them, or have a relationship even with them.
I
So,
think from a business perspective, it's just plain revenue streams.
mm-hmm.
So, for instance, if you are able to create your own avatar, so you have like the standard avatar, which is like a anime type of avatar, let's say, and then you have the upgraded feature that you can create your own avatar based on the replica of your neighbor. Then, of course, for them, for the company organization developing it, it's a revenue stream. So for them, they're
Yes.
just creating and pushing these features out there, but they're not really focusing that in depthly about the consequences. Of course, I do not say not at all, but even though there are strings loose, there are strings that are not being pretty much attached to the whole situation. That,
Uh-huh.
of course, it's an aftermath of the usage. And
Yes.
you cannot forecast that because, I mean, we cannot really read the future like that either. So from a business perspective, I think it's a way of increasing revenue streams and sales and promotion.
Okay, because you were talking also about the hologram, the one, I think the Japanese man who got married to the hologram, and I think also because that's business in the future, of course, that companies are going to give this as a service, or are going to build this kind of holograms or robots. But do you also think that by expanding this market, like companies becoming more involved in this kind of products, that also the decreasement of marriage and even births will occur because of this, because people will not be interested, even not anymore, in humans, because humans are, they talk too loud, they don't do what I say, and I don't want to be with you anymore. So I just going to find my perfect match. So then you really, instead of just on a dating app putting preference, now you can really make a perfect match for you. And so
They're
yeah.
going to create an avatar baby.
And
No, but I mean, if you go a little bit further, so right now, if you talk about VR pornography, for instance, then you
yes,
just are provided with the tools and the service of the company.
yes.
But if you go a little bit further than just that, then of course, if I'm not going to say half of the population, but if a
No.
lot of people start marrying robots, then yeah, reproduction will be less. That is one thing. So,
Yes.
and I'm not saying there will be a stop to humankind anytime soon, but you will see a decrease of newborns in specific countries. And you can
Yes.
also see that because even right now, people are focusing on more work
Mm-hmm.
related aspect and also not really investing a lot of money into a child. That
No.
also happens. So then you see the decrease of newborns. But if it's focusing on the technology aspect and intimacy and relationship, I mean, we are entering the metaverse even, that
Ah, that's a good
is
one. Yes.
focusing on partially off, partially on, more or less like a second life situation, but
Mm-hmm.
a lot more advanced. And then you see that I think eventually people are going to create a family, maybe in the metaverse, because you can buy a
Wow.
house, you meet people, you walk around. So I was in one of those websites, and it's very interesting because you walk around. I didn't really communicate with people, but I was just looking around what's in there, and I thought it was very interesting that you can actually see a little bit of a text saying who the person is and just like a
Oh,
bio.
yes.
And I mean, it's like, oh, okay, so it's like things are moving there. So if you are interested in, for instance, they're also an academic person and they're single, I don't know, you can start talking to them and then you connect with them on a different level. And
Yes.
who knows, then you get married into the realm, and you can have meta babies even. But those are the things that are happening, and it also happened, for instance, that people were starting relationships in Second Life, for example.
Yes, because there was also a story that people were they got married on Second Life, and then they just choose when they met each other offline after being together online in Second Life, and they saw each other offline, and they were like, "This is not going to work. We'll just go back to the online world and just pursue a relationship over there." And I was like, not like slightly shocked that that's something that people really prefer in the future, that they are really prefer living in this online world where they don't have to meet each other physically, and that they have this, I think, virtual reality, right? They're using metaverse, the VR
Yeah,
component, right?
right
Yes.
now, yeah.
And they rather prefer that than just being offline with each other. That's such a new, I think, a new wave, of course. Like we're talking about a second wave. That's like a new wave of having
Yes,
relationships, love, intimacy. I think that's not the third wave.
the
It's
beyond,
going. It's going.
beyond.
I don't know if that you talked about like something about third wave, but I think that's even a step even there that they just get in this world together. And yeah, I don't know. I think that's very fascinating that people are open and yeah having these possibilities to just have relationships in this online world and not being with each other ever offline. That's
Yes, but I mean as well that also might mean, should I say, that they might be secluded from the world in general as well. So these are also the people that are not really the most social person out there. They're not sometimes, according to their standards, they're not the prettiest persons either. So
uh,
therefore, you are not really the ones that go on like face to face, meet people and talk to them because they might be very awkward in person, but then online it's like you know, you also have
yes.
that. And then you have the factor that if you are going to use the first wave, Tinder, Bumble, whatever you want to use, then you have to put your picture as well. And then, am I pretty enough to at least attract like three guys or three
Wow.
females, whatever your preference is?
Yes.
So again, you went through all of these steps, like one, two, and three, but they didn't work. So the only way is, oh, okay, so I can be myself. I can dress up like a bee in Second Life, maybe, or wherever you want. I can dress like the most awkward combination in Metaverse. Nobody would care.
Yes.
And, or again, it depends because people are buying as well branded items, clothing, um, accessories in Metaverse. So
Yes.
you are very much portraying something in there that you are probably not able to portray here in real life face to face. So
Ah.
therefore, you would prefer to go there where you can actually afford, let's say, a Gucci bag instead of in an H&M bag here in real
Yes.
life. So your life
Ah.
over there is much more luxurious. People are approaching me because I look like this in there, and therefore it's making my day. So I'm getting a
Yeah.
lot of attention, you know. So I think these kind of feelings are always triggered when it comes to, from face to face to leading to certain
Mhm.
behaviors online and also beyond
Yeah.
online.
Yeah, but I understand because I think that's a great point that you're making about okay, so these people are feeling that they have like a better chance online than offline. And I think that's something, and that comes again with my techno solution, techno solution, because it's like the right solution for actually not accepting everyone as they are, because in our society there is this universal thing like okay those are attractive, those are not attractive, and people are really perceiving themselves as non-attractive, and then they go online and to fix this problem online. And I think That's so sad also that has to be
Yeah.
but maybe for them it's a chance. Maybe they don't mind. And I think for me that's a personal thing, right? For me it's personal. I think it's sad. But for these kind of people, maybe they are like, yeah, there's a solution for this and I love being online. And what you said, I can wear this, I can wear that, I can be my ultimate self and I can be like my alter ego even, and it's going to work out just fine for me, and I can just live like this. And I think also in the future, the generations after us, they will have a different way of looking at this because they are already in the world of first wave, second wave, and they're already like cost, like even yeah. Or do you think like
You
that
know,
will go?
I have my questions. Of course, the way we are at this moment in that world, we're already in it. So it's rolling already. And I think a lot of people are starting to focus more on protecting the younger generation.
Ah,
For instance, Instagram is doing it as well. It's really starting with a parenting, how do you call it?
like
Censoring, I can say.
yes,
I
yes,
think
yes.
so. Instagram is starting. We are focusing as well on other environments that are pretty much focusing on 18 plus.
Mm-hmm.
So we, in a way, I think our generation and maybe the ones before us who are pretty much hardcore developing these things are also focusing on the ethical aspect
Yes,
to protect up to such extent, and also in a way educate what is right and what is wrong when it comes to these things.
yes,
And because at the end of the day they have consequences, and if you talk about relationship it has consequences, but let's be honest, even gaming, and it's not relationship related, but you can see what happens in gaming or in the online world with a virtual reality and that whole environment. It did have bad consequences for the school shootings in the US as well.
yes, yes.
So either way, I think people are becoming a little bit more focused and also a little bit more conscious about the developments based on these things. And I think the younger generation are also pretty focusing on, okay, yeah, no, should I,
Yeah.
shouldn't I? Because some of the students, my students, don't even have social media accounts
Ah, because of the ethical implications.
because I never asked them, because usually it's very a personal
Personal.
matter as
Yes.
well, but some of them don't, and it's very interesting indeed to find out why they do not have, for instance, Facebook.
Ah, okay. Yeah, it will be very interesting to ask them those kind of questions indeed to see like whether they stand is something is it like an ethical thing or maybe something
Yeah.
they're just aware of. But I think what I meant before was I think the now we're discussing second wave and a lot of people are not still aware of this wave. So I think the future generations are the one that are going to be born. I think our
Now.
grandchildren
Now.
they're going to be more open I think right to the second wave than we are right now. Don't you think that there will be more
I'm
because
in
now it's like
between
shock
though.
and then it will going to be very normal. I think that a robot like hey that's my uncle, this is my aunt, like it's just like this robot's
I think it would be pretty much in between still,
yes do you
because
think
maybe,
interesting
and also depending on where you live, of course,
also that
and
yes definitely
but I think the human aspect will play a very important role if by the right now you see a lot of things happening, a lot
yes
of bad things happening through technology, through the usage of technology,
definitely definitely
and they are very much aware of that as well. And I think it's a matter of wait and see what will happen, because the developments, they will come, and that's not going to stop. And
true
we've seen that with let's say suddenly we had Bitcoin, then it became NFTs, and then so it's all over the place right now, that
yes
even we are trying to figure that one out. And the younger generation, I think, as well, but I think the same as the decluttering
hmm
aspect of having possessions,
yes
they are very strongly into that as well. So what we see as, oh, I want everything luxury, they might see it as a, let's keep it just simple. So I think it's a matter of wait and see what is going to happen. So I do not, I'm not daring to say whether they're going to adopt it much more
Yes.
intensively than we do.
Well, I think maybe of course I understand that part, right? But for me, I think because reading about these kind of things a lot, like ethical implications and how designers or people are of companies are doing these kind of things, I think that's something. It's a very how do you say this in English? Let me think about a word. I think for companies like big business, I don't think they're going to really think about the ethical implications so much. I think I hope students will become more responsible in the way they think about this, about what they're designing, etc. But I think it's going to be a very I think it's going to be a big thing. I don't think I think we're going to face a future where this is going to be very normal, because what you said before about normal, as in okay, now what's normal, some people but in the future, st- the same with internet dating, the same with smartphones, we're going to see this as normal. We're going to think like, oh, okay, she's dating a robot, I hope she's doing great. And but is it ethically? No, not really. But if you can take the time to consider the ethical implications, the aspect, and really talk about it, I think we can have it in a responsible way. So using it, for example, for health issues, for example, but still doing research on it. But I think in the future we will be seeing a lot of these kind of immersive technologies for relationships and love, because we humans, if you see the media, also we say we are a little bit his resistance against, but still the media show something else. We're still making these movies and sci-fi about marrying a robot, so we are intrigued by this kind of thing. So I think it's going to be a matter of time that we're going to use it a lot. I think even, but maybe not in the direct future. I think maybe in 100 years. I think it's going to be. But that's my perspective. I think it's going to happen because people are too curious about this kind of things. I don't
But I
think.
think as well that those who actually saw Black Mirror would have a different perspective, because every
True.
single thing has a consequence. And I think as well it would be very interesting for the viewers later on to, when they're watching this, to add the comments below and let us know what you think about whether the younger generation will adopt it faster, or whether they are going to adopt it, period. So I am very curious to know as well from just the audience and in general, to know what they think about it and how they see this whole second wave playing a role in relationships and or our lives, basically.
Yes, because I think that's a great question, because I think in the future the ethical parts of this, because what you're seeing right now that people are really sometimes they even abuse this kind of chatbots or abuse
Yeah,
these robots, and now what you're seeing is that we have to think about how we can regulate these kind of issues, but also how we can make sure that it's going to happen in a responsible way. But if it happens in a responsible way, if the younger generation chooses to, okay, if I'm going to design these kind of things, I'm going to do it responsible. I think there's like a portal to do it right. But then you have to ask yourself, is it even something we need in society right now or not, or in the future it's going to have, if there's too many ethical implications, it will not work. We humans, we will try to do it, I think so, but I think we're going to also put like this, like, okay, no, this has too much ethical implications, and let's
yeah.
not do this. But still, I think seeing the abuse that's happening already with AI and with chatbots and with just using them as sex slaves or even having sex brothels, um, I don't think it's going to go away. I think we should just have more people that are designing these things, or companies that are being doing this kind of or having this kind of services of products, to be more aware and to do it. That's the only thing we have.
Ethically responsible.
I don't think we can do much about it, like business wise. It's
No.
big business. That's not what I think, and that's from an ethical expert. I mean, like,
No, but I think it's very interesting. And again, we can go on and on about these topics,
yes, true.
especially if you focus on the augmented aspect. Because if you look at Pokemon Go, was just, it went just
Yes,
bananas. So, and it can also happen with intimacy and relationships, because everything has an influence in real life as well. So whatever you do in your second wave environment has an influence, whether it's good or bad, in your personal life. And I think it's a on and on discussion topic, and we can go on and on about this as
yes.
well. But
Wha-
I Yes.
I would like to add one last part because I think this one is very important. I will just keep it short before we wrap it up. I think something that I also find interesting of just because I'm very interested in gender and technology. I think the gender component also of these things because now they're mainly made for men, of course, and there was also an AI robot being trained on pornography, like 8,000 videos, and I think that's very concerning too for the future. Like if you're going to build these kind of sex robots or VR experience, etc., we have to really think about how current social oppressions are being reinforced through these kind of robots or immersive technology. So I think that's something also, like how as a woman, how would yeah. So that's also your paper, of course, Eunice, without saying too much about it. Do you have an opinion on that also, like the gender component of immersive technologies for
Yes. Yeah. I mean, I think I have an opinion about everything at this point. No, but of
Sure.
course, a lot of these things are very much focusing on the male aspect and also how male feel and view these things. And the female or the person outside of who is standing outside of the whole environment is not really being taken into account. And I think it's of importance for developers and even
Yes.
regulators and policymakers to take into account that, hey, these people inside of the realm should be protected one way or the other.
Mm-hmm.
But then on the other hand, the people outside of it as well. So I can say like all the equality aspect and labels, but I think just in general, just take into account the overall usage and aftermath or after effect that this can have on a human being
Yeah.
and global behavior actually.
Yes, especially the current social. I think the dynamic also between men and women in the current state and versus the future. So I think it's important to also bring in indeed the gender component that it's going to have an effect mostly on mostly on a mostly on the not mostly but on the group women, for example. And I think that's developers should be very aware of this and be very thoughtful when designing these kind of technologies because they have an effect on human society and especially in this case women. So we should be definitely taking that into account when designing these things because they can have a very people have the right to have this kind of relationships with
Yeah.
robots, and I think that's fine. I only think it has to be regulated and it has to have the ethical aspects taken into consideration before putting it out on the market without thinking it through. So yeah.
But I think the inclusiveness, as in
Yes.
not really the equality term, but inclusive
Yes.
in the sense of, okay, male, female, then you have the other
Mm.
others, and then you
Yes.
have also disabled people.
Yes.
So you have a lot of aspects and types of situations to consider when developing and putting into the market. So I wouldn't really um, put it in the box equality women, but the inclusiveness of basically all genders and all types of persons.
Yeah, that's a good one. I think that diversity is important in teams when developing these kind of products, and that's the inclusiveness also is very true. And I think for it to become a great tool to have a relationship with or have a you have to have diverse people look at this and diverse teams and women also because women are being oppressed often when it comes to sexual pleasure, etc. So we have to think about this thoughtfully. So it's we can talk about this for a long time, but
Yes,
I think for now the key point is to have diverse teams and inclusiveness and when designing this kind of technologies.
yes.
Yes.
And also take into account safety,
Also.
both in the realms and in real life as well. So, again, as Gabi said, we can go on and on about this topic. And for now, we are going to wrap it up. But if you want to know more about this topic and you want to hear us talk a little bit more, um, just let us know. And eventually, we can go live one day as well to just talk about this topic and see your comments coming live
Yes.
in the chat as well. So thank you so much for watching. We
Yeah.
look forward to hearing from you, reading your comments below as well. And yes, it's a wrap. Gabby?
Thank you so much, Denise. It was very fun and exciting to talk about this topic, and very interesting too. So yeah, you give me some food for thoughts, and yeah, let's do this next time with an audience maybe, and see the questions. Okay,
Yes.
ciao,
Thank you. Bye.
ciao.